Hello, everybody. It's really good to be back. Hello to the people in the camera and behind the camera. It's good to talk to the world sometimes, too. Yeah, Gosh already gave me a nice introduction, and as soon as my clicker starts working, I can keep going. There we go. Yeah, so my name is Anton Bollen. I am a customer and market strategist for a company called TechSmith. We make two products. We make more, but we're more known for Camtasia and Snagit. Anybody here use them? Awesome, thank you. I use them too, so that's super cool. And I'm from Germany and I live in Berlin, but I grew up in the United States. And one thing to note, I'm not a tech writer, so there's a good chance I'll have some typos on these slides. Please forgive me, right? We all have our expertises. One thing I wanted to mention, because SOAP is so cool and we have this tweet wall going on, that if you are not already tweeting a lot, tweet, because there's like 21, 23 speakers, couple sessions going on. The world should know more about this fantastic pink conference that we all get to be part of. Because I really like SOAP, like physical SOAP, but I really mean the conference for this. And here's why. Yeah, I like SOAP as a conference because it always has a really strong conference theme, and I think that's very unique. It's not some bloated theme that people make up, but it's very real to us as a community, to us technical communicators. And so in 2016, we talked a lot about problems. We had a lot of problems on the stage. We solved some of them. That was really cool. And then 2 years ago, 2017 at SOAP, there's no we versus they. It was about us. So it was about breaking down those corporate silos and getting the tech departments more integrated in the overall business. And I thought that was really cool and very real. And then last year, innovation versus simplicity, also a great thing to talk about. So this year, the theme that they came out with it, content as code, I thought that was really cool because, well, it looks pretty. But it was also challenging for me because I'm not a developer. I don't know anything about code. Yeah, so I had to think about that a little bit. But hey, challenges is what we live for, right? So first, what does content to code really mean? And to me, first up, what is content? Let's focus on that piece first. Pretty straightforward. It's the stuff we create. You create. I create a little bit. You guys create a lot more. So help files, onboarding guides, video tutorials, documentation, and that content usually consists of elements such as text, images, diagrams, animations, sometimes some magic in there too. And for me, my focus in the work I do is really on the visual content. So videos, animations, images, anytime we're using pictures or moving pictures to convey information or to make a point and to help our users. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. So what about code? Right? And we just saw that in the last presentation, which, by the way, is really hard to follow up on with just a boring presentation, right? But code, we saw a lot of that. So it's a computer language usually, at least that's what we think about it. But it doesn't have to be. Because code actually comes from the Latin word codex or codex. And what it means is it's a system of principles of rules. And you can think about it like a moral code. Something that allows you to interact in a certain environment effectively and integrated. Or think about the passcode that allows you to give you access to more information that's stored behind that magic screen. Or maybe genetic code that we're trying to unravel to better understand what humankind is all about. And so when I talk about code, I'm thinking less about it from a computer scientific standpoint, but more from the point that code provides us an understanding and access to places, information, and how things work. Yeah? So with that mindset, let's keep going. Let's crack the code of visual content. And what I really should have called it, but it was less fun, was understanding of visual content. And some really smart person said very late last night, the more we understand visuals, the better we can optimize and use them in our daily work as technical communicators. Yeah? So, first question, do we even need to use visuals in our documentation and in our content? And that's a very real question, and I know from the conversations I had yesterday, today, there's a lot of companies that say, no, let's not add any images to our screens, to our documentation, let's just use text. Because images, especially localizing images, creating them, it's expensive, it takes up a lot of time, it's inefficient, with the next update we have to change that again. So the business side of things might tell you, don't use visuals. But honestly, I think that's a cop-out. That's the easy way of not actually dealing with the problem. And so my message to you is don't settle for that, but let's actually try to understand visuals a little bit more so we can see why they matter. So, first up, we did a survey last year where we asked a couple thousand people about the impact or the value they consider in visuals, and I hope you can read that okay. But the outcome was essentially that only 15% of the employees that we interviewed said, yeah, text is fine, that's the most engaging form of content that's out there. But 85%, they were really the ones that said, no, video or images are much more engaging. And we did this research in the context of employees, but employees are also our users. Yeah? So if you want to reach your users in a meaningful and engaging way, I think visuals are not necessarily something I would leave out of that. In that same study, we also found out that 67% of the people were able to perform tasks faster and better if the instructions included visuals versus just plain text. And they were able to do it a little bit faster. So if you want to read up into that, I can give you all the data, and you can look into that and get geeked out. But let's talk about something a little bit more real, screenshots. I imagine a lot of you take a lot of screenshots. I do too. I work for Snagit. I have to. Click, click. So let's take a look at this screenshot. Oh, I wish this wasn't so pixelated, but that's OK. Yeah? So here we have a basic screenshot, but there's a lot going on, right? There is a drop-down menu we're clicking on, but there's a lot of items right here on the bottom left. There's stuff going on in the middle. And all of that is kind of distracting the viewer from the original purpose of the screenshot, which is to learn. Click here on New Item and select Note as the last option down. Yeah. And yeah, so what can we do about that? Let's try to understand that, right? Because I think most of you, even it took you a second to realize that this was the option that's actually relevant because there was so much more going on. So I want to introduce you to something that's called predictive eye tracking. So what is it? Predictive eye tracking is the idea of using machine learning to create eye tracking algorithms. So essentially, you're feeding a supercomputer a bunch of eye tracking results. They figure out where people will be looking at in a certain image. And then you can apply these algorithms to images. And you get stuff like this, where you can exactly see, people in an image usually look at people's faces, right? I'm not smart enough to actually create these algorithms, but fortunately, there's a lot of companies now that are smart enough and that do this. So with the help of AI, there are online services like this one, Expose.io, where you can upload any image, and within seconds, it will give you back an eye tracking result. And you can try that. Yeah, just go to Expose.io and try it out for yourself, or just Google predictive eye tracking. You'll come up with some services that will allow you to do that. And it's accurate. We tested it against some real-world eye tracking results, and yeah, this is not completely made up stuff, but this is pretty accurate. And so, if we take a look at this basic screenshot from a second ago, and then we overlay the eye tracking results, we can see, and it helps if you squint a little bit, then you can see it even clearer. The user, yeah, they focus on what's relevant, but they're clearly also looking over here at this big bold option on the left. The elements up here are getting some attention, and they're also looking over here. And if the instruction is click on Note, click on New Item and Note, we don't really want this. We want them to focus on what's in the middle, because that makes our screenshot more effective. So what can we do? I think the first step that a lot of people do is we add little boxes and arrows trying to point people to the right spot. Like I added this little red box, I made the cursor a little bit bigger. And it helps, but we still have all that visual noise going on the outside, and we don't really want that. So what can we do as a next step? I mean, this is not rocket science, we crop, right? We crop the screenshot to what we actually need, and by doing so, we can remove all this extra irrelevant information in our screenshot. And the result is a simpler, and I would argue a much better screenshot, because it puts the important thing into the center. So what does eye tracking have to say about this? Yeah, all right. All the distraction that existed before is gone. The main attention falls on where it needs to be, but there's still some elements that are drawing some attention, but that's OK. Yeah, I think this is a much better point. But what else can we do? There has to be something, right? So who is familiar with the idea or saw me talk last year about simplified user interface? Yeah, a third. OK, I'll go into it a little bit more so you see what it is. And it's a concept where you take a graphic like this and you reduce it down to simpler shapes. And it's usually done in marketing, but there's a lot more use cases in TechCom now as well, and benefits. And essentially, it's a representation of the original interface. And it focuses on the essentials of an instruction or process by stripping away everything that's not needed. Yeah? And we can do that. So here we have a normal screenshot. I've shown this a few times already in the past, but the instructions are file. Click on Connect Mobile Device. This is all right. but here's a simplified version where the relevant information, file, mobile device, is still there, but everything else has been simplified. You'll also notice I removed the hotkeys because in this particular step, it really doesn't matter to the user what all these hotkeys are. They don't need to know them. I also removed all of the menu items at the top because in this case, I would imagine most users know where to find the file menu. If it's more complex, of course, keep some of that stuff in there for context. So what does eye tracking have to say about this? Yeah? Let's first take a look at the one on the left, and it backs me up in the assumption that our user is they're gonna scan the items, they'll figure out where to click, but they're also gonna be looking all over the place. They're gonna be paying attention to things that are actually not relevant right then. And now if we compare that to the simplified screenshot, it's pretty clear. Right? Sorry, water is good. Stay hydrated. Perfect. So, let's take it back to that screenshot we had from earlier, that calendar, right? The one we cropped and we optimized and made it better. Pretty good. And of course, for you, I made a simplified version. Yeah, and you can tell, as I just said, I removed a lot of unnecessary details and text that might be distracting. You'll also notice, I'm going to skip back one slide so you see the difference. I removed, for example, the text right here. I simplified the stuff over here, and you'll see I kept the icons, for example, for reference. So the main instructions of, we are in Microsoft Outlook on Mac, we're in the Home tab, click on the third option in the first tab, and then choose Note. That's still in there. So if you take a look at the eye tracking stuff, it's much, much more focused. Yeah? So if you compare these side by side, the normal decent screenshot and the simplified screenshot, yeah, you can see the impact we can have. And through eye tracking, we can measure this kind of stuff. And I think that's something that is not done enough. We're not trying to understand how our screenshots or our content works. And with stuff like eye tracking, we can kind of start to crack open that code and try to understand that a little bit more, because then we can start looking at optimizing it a little bit further. So yeah, cracking the code in screenshots. So the first one, reduce that visual noise and help focus attention. We did some testing with the eye tracking just now, and yeah, we got that covered. But that's just a small piece of the pie, and we only have, looks like, 12 minutes or so left. So we can't explore all aspects of screenshots because I want to talk about some other things. But there's other things in the room that I would love to test more, like how can we optimize screenshots further to cut localization costs, right? How can we use graphics across multiple languages, or how can we future-proof our content a little bit more? And I know that SUI stuff can help, but there's a lot more we need to figure out as a community and as an industry. So, okay, let's change gears. I talked about screenshots, let's talk about videos, right? Because video is the future, and I really like this graphic, so I really like throwing it out there. And this is also the point of the presentation where I do a little pitch for my free stickers of videos the future that you can get at my table out the door. Yeah? So, all right, back to the future. So, why is video the future? Actually, it's probably more contemporary at this point. Yeah, it's a common format, but the problem is that not all videos are created equal. We've all seen good videos, and I'm sure we've all seen pretty awful videos. Yeah? And especially when it comes to instructional content, documentation content, we really need to understand what do our viewers really value, and what factors make the videos really effective, and how should the content be structured, and how and when are people even watching our videos, and why. Because if we don't know the answers to this stuff, we can't really optimize our content. We're just shooting into the woods and we're hoping we hit something. Yeah? And we are acting so much on old assumptions, or we saw this other company do it, and I'm sure they know what they're doing, so we do it that same way. And I don't believe in that. This industry is changing so much. Agile development, right? We can't just get stuck on, this is what we did 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 1 year ago. We need to continuously evolve what we're doing. And therefore, I always think it's good to question, but evaluate and analyze what's out there and where we can take this visual journey. So, one thing we did is, or one thing you can do is like ask the viewers, right? Ask your audience. Because we all have different audiences as well, keep that in mind. You know, my audience is different than yours. So if you read somewhere online that, let's say, videos should all include, I don't know, interactive pieces, and it's written by 4 university teachers in Alaska, it probably doesn't apply to your documentation content here in Krakow, right? So ask your viewers, and that's something we did as well. I've talked about this at a few other conferences, so some of this might be repeat to some of you, but we ran a survey first in 2013 and 2016 where we asked our viewers a lot of questions, and guess what? We just did that again. We just finished up another round of the survey, so we get some benchmarking in there as well, where we asked them questions, and I want to show you some of the new results that just came in December, so you're the second group of people that actually get to see some of them. The videos, one thing to quickly point out is that we didn't just ask about video because we don't want cat content in here, but we asked specifically about informational videos and instructional videos. Yeah, so they're hopefully relevant to most people here in this room. So the first question is, how long do you want your videos actually to be? And in 2018, end of 2018, that was the general result. And you can see that the majority of the videos that people prefer tend to fall at least under 20 minutes, but we're having this massive kind of, it's not a spike, but this, I don't know, this bump right here under the 6-minute mark. And yeah, again, think about your audience, but I think the general takeaway is that the shorter is the better, so try to keep your content focused on that. And ask your audience and maybe think about formats and give them A/B options and see if you can better figure out what format works best for you. Yeah? Another question we asked that I really love is, how did you actually find the last instructional video that you watched, right? Because somehow we need to get our users to the content. And the majority of the people, almost half, well, that's quite the majority, right? 49%, in 2018 said they searched for it, and that's consistent with previous years. It was always around 50, 60% that people are searching for content. So search is still the most dominant way on how people are finding our video content. So if people are searching for it, we have to make it findable, right? Because if they don't find it, what's the point of even creating that video content? So obviously, tagging metadata is important, but also, and that's something that's often overlooked, is the title and the description, right? They need to be as clear as possible so our users know what they're going to be clicking on, but also so search engines can pick up on it so it's indexed properly. And so our content that we create, even if it's good content, can then also be found and is valuable. So don't do this, and I've seen that a lot, especially in like e-learning content. It's just like, no, what are you doing to your users? I have no idea what's behind that. This is not much better, right? At least I know it's about a pivot table in Excel, but it doesn't give me more information. So even if it's not really the video, I really encourage you to spend more time or spend a lot of emphasis on making sure it's very descriptive before the user even clicks on it. So in this case, we already determined it's a how-to video, it's a tutorial, we're calling out the software versions that it relates to, the actual instruction calls out that it's a step-by-step piece. So yeah, there's a lot more information in there, and as a result, it's more findable, and it's also easier for the user to find the right content. All right. Another one, no surprise, we asked people, do you ever stop the video before it ends? And the majority of the people say yes. But the real question, I think, is why, right? Because if you ask the question of why did you stop watching the video, we can learn some insights on what we might need to tweak or where the issues are, why people are watching our content or not watching our content. And so here are the top reasons we got back this year. And this is also consistent with previous years. The main reason why people are not watching or finished watching their instructional content or documentation content is because it was not the right information that they needed. Duh, obviously, if they click on something, it doesn't help them, why would they keep watching? Also, boring was another big reason, but I'm not going to go into that. But let's look more into this not getting the right information. What's the reason for that? And we asked that question. And consistently over the last 3 instances of the survey, the answers have been A, it wasn't detailed enough, so it didn't have the level that they needed, or it didn't include the step-by-step instructions if that's really what they were looking for, or in the worst case, the content actually didn't match the description. So again, this goes back to 2 slides ago where I talked about make your videos findable, meaning you're giving them a really good description, good meta tagging, the type of video, the type of software it applies to, provide them with as much information as necessary so they are able to find a video that actually meets their need so they're not skipping away. Okay. Here's another interesting point. We asked people to give us 3 reasons or three aspects of a great video, and I separated them into blue and orange, and the stuff in blue is stuff like it has to be informative, it needs to match my need, I'm interested in the subject. this is all informational. This is really good stuff, because that's what we want, right? The video has to be concise. The stuff in orange, it has to be entertaining and humorous. And people don't, with videos in our industry, they don't really want or need the super funny stuff. Sure, it helps, but never forget that we're doing this for documentation and training purposes. So never lose that goal out of sight when you're creating video content. Okay, one more thing we did, because this has been like the year of me looking into random data and trying things. We asked these people to send us an example of a video they think is fantastic, of an instructional video, of course, right? And they sent us 100 videos, and we were like, all right, cool, let's analyze them. Shit, that's a lot of videos to analyze. So how do you do that? You might be able to use AI. I don't know, maybe Chris can tell us if he's still here, but yeah, that's not what we did. We crowdsourced it internally at the company, and we sent out an email to everybody and asked everybody, hey, in your next lunch break, watch 1 or 2 of our videos. And we compiled a easy-to-do survey with checkboxes, so we were able to categorize some of the things. And as a result, in 2 days, we got those 100 videos analyzed, and everybody helped, from the intern all the way up to the CEO. She did 3 videos. It was great. Yeah? And there was also a really cool way to include the rest of the company in the small initiative me and one of our other instructional people were doing. Yeah, me and Stephanie were doing that, Stephanie Warnhoff. So it was a cool way to involve the entire company, and it saved us a lot of time because we didn't spend 3 weeks just watching videos and trying to qualify them. And by using kind of a survey where we were able to predefine some certain categories we were looking for, we had some open-ended questions as well, we were able to get the data fairly clean and didn't have to do much cleanup afterwards. And so what did we find out? Hell, I pixelated. I am so sorry about that. But it confirmed a lot of our assumptions about content. Yeah? So the first one says it's clear audio, right? So most of the videos had really good audio quality. So if you're not sure if audio quality is important, I think looking at data like this and thinking about it backs you up that, yeah, audio is important. Let's not reduce that, or let's make sure we at least sound good. Another one is most of the videos had a title clip or an intro. And again, I think that goes back to making sure people know what they're getting. This is not necessarily just about branding, but it's really about setting the expectation of a title clip that tells you what is this presentation or this video about. Or a lot of the videos also included text overlays to convey additional information, so little text pop-ups or arrows or things that pointed them to people, to elements. So it's oftentimes enhancing the existing information within a video with these text overlays is common practice, and therefore probably something you should consider with your own content. And also going back to the timing, of course, we analyzed all the examples they sent us. And you remember me telling you earlier, the majority of the videos were less than 20 minutes, so that's still true. But with the examples, and we had that kind of bump around 3 to 4 minutes, but we also saw a lot more videos that were the longer format. So we haven't dug into that some more, but that's something where you can also look at data and think about maybe what people are saying about themselves is not actually reflective of the truth. Or maybe we had just some really strange people taking our survey. So let me kind of wrap this up here. Yeah? So in conclusion, there's a few things I want to take us away as technical communicators and when we're thinking about visuals. Yeah? First up, everything is changing. Yeah? And so there's so much to learn, so we must continuously improve our understanding around the use of visuals. We can't just get stuck on the way we've been doing it 5 or 10 years ago. We're doing it for us, but also for our users, right? I also feel like we need to evolve and refine our approach and practices for visuals. So that SUI stuff I was talking about, or yesterday I was in this really cool workshop about SVGs and all the cool stuff you can do with SVGs. That's us pushing the boundaries and introducing new techniques in our community. So, and if you come up with anything, if you have insights, please share them as well, like I'm sharing with you, right? This is a community effort, team effort, right? Teamwork. Like, if I do this research and I don't share it, like what's the point, right? I don't want to just help myself, I want to help everyone, and I especially want to help our users. So there's a few things you can do to help crack the code, and I'm going to be super quick. Be creative, see at what resources you have, but you might already have some analytics you can get to. See what people are clicking on, what they're not clicking on when they're jumping up. If you have an option to run A/B test, try it. I really want to start some A/B tests on videos. We've just got a platform for it, so maybe next year. Run some surveys. Try that eye tracking stuff I was talking about and see what you can find out about your own screenshots from that. And use any kind of existing research and data that might be out there. If you're interested in the simplified graphics stuff, a colleague and I just started a Slack group. It's open for anyone. So if you want to join the conversation, share ideas, ask questions about the simplification stuff, just talk to me. We get you in there in like 3 minutes. And if you want to have the data in a non-pixelated, pretty way with all the video stuff, just contact me or try to send me an email. You can try to scan that code. It might work. And I'm more than happy to share that data, like I said earlier. So with that, all I kind of want to say is thank you for having me again, Soap. And I hope you found this presentation at least somewhat engaging. I know the other one was a bit hard to follow up on. Thanks.
Thank you, Anton. Guys, questions to Anton before we head for the break? Do I see a question? OK, I can see one question here, another here. And I think so far that's it.
Hi, I'm Anya from IBM. I wanted to ask about the instructionals videos.
Yeah.
Do you think that the end user needs some time to do the tasks that you are showing? Do we need to include some moments of silence to do the tasks?
I would say no, because videos have a play button and a pause button. Okay. And I think the user is hopefully smart enough to pause a video and then try it out for themselves. And that way you're keeping the format flexible for people who just want to watch and learn, and people who want to watch, do, and learn. Because otherwise you're limiting that content to just people who want to do it. Yeah?
OK, thank you.
But to kind of follow it up, it could be interesting to add breakpoints in the video where the video automatically stops, and then the user has to click to continue, and whether they click to continue right away and just keep watching the video, or whether they then actually try it out is up to the user. But that way you could kind of reinforce that as well. So that might be something to try as well, where you create 2 versions of the same video, put them out there, and try to get some feedback on it and to see how people respond to it. Other questions?
Yes, we have other questions.
Hi, I'm Valeria from Polonarps. I wanted to ask you about this screenshot you showed to help you with eye tracking technology. Do you use any special tool for this to, like cross out the unnecessary things?
One more time, so that eye tracking tool, yeah?
Yes. Do you use any tool or program to cross out the unnecessary things to make it more visible?
Not in this case. So this case, the screenshots I showed, the eye tracking screenshots, were the ones that were generated by that predictive eye tracking service I was using, Expose.io. Yeah, so I didn't enhance them further based on that.
No, but how do you actually cross the things out just to make sure that the attention is focused on these exact words, exact phrases?
Like how I cross out the stuff?
Yes.
Just image editing software.
Simple.
Yeah, so I used Snagit because we have a feature built into that for blocking out everything else and simplifying it. But you can also just draw boxes and other tools, and then just a selection and deletion tool helps a lot to just get rid of like the hotkeys, for example. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But it's easier than you think, I think. There's a lot of tools out there that help.
Yes, hi.
Hello.
You mentioned SVG graphics in videos. Is it better to use SVG, for example, in educational videos, or it's more distracting for the user, and it's better to include nothing, just for the sake, for example, of entertainment, humor, or what's better?
So yeah, can you say that one more time, just to make sure I get it right?
Yes. For example, we create instructional video for users. So we demonstrate some steps on the screen. Should we use SVG graphics, like some small icons or some characters, just to make it more entertainment?
Yeah.
Or it's more distracting for the user? What's better? What's the trends, for example?
No, I think it's good to include additional elements as long as they help to tell the story. Yeah, and oftentimes in instructional videos, I'm thinking back at the ones I created, oftentimes you're not just teaching someone click here, but you're trying to also explain the concept that's behind it. And the concept alone is often a little bit more complex. So if you can support those things by the use of icons, small animations, yeah, it will help the user to hear but also see what's relevant. Yeah? But you're asking an interesting question because you have to be careful not to overdo it.
Yeah, and one more point. Is it looks like more absolute? For example, maybe it's better just to highlight some area than to add like some icon or character or something that would make it more, yes, more absolute and more strange, not so stylish, for example.
Depends a bit on your audience. But yeah, the audience and the content, but I think it's okay to loosen things up a little bit and not stay so static.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, but maybe try A/B testing, right? Make 2 versions and see what people respond to better.
Okay, thanks.
We have one more question. Let's agree that's the last one.
Okay. Hi, I'm Natalia at Taplan. So I also have a question about voice in such video. Is it useful, for example, or more helpful for users to have video just with procedure step by step, or to add voice as well to be more helpful?
Mm-hmm. So the question is whether or not to add voice or just the visuals portion, right? Yeah. And I think well, let's actually ask the audience. So imagine yourself, you have to learn a process in a software, and you can watch the video, and you can just watch the video and there's no audio, but it shows you clearly, click here, click here, click here, and open these options. Or you can also have a person explaining it on top of that in the video. So who prefers the option that is just visuals, no audio? Okay, it's maybe 10% in here. Flip side, who likes to hear alongside seeing? I don't know if that answers your question, but I think people are, if we can see and hear at the same time, there are studies that show that the retention of the information is greater. Also means the viewer doesn't necessarily have to, they can look away and still know what's going on if they're also hearing what needs to be done. But in some cases, maybe it's not necessary. Like animated GIFs are a great example of showing single small steps in an animated fashion. And they're perfectly fine without audio. And I think for these little 5-second clips, it actually would be annoying to have a voice come on to tell you, click here. But if it's a little bit longer, a little bit more complex, I think voice is fundamentally important. Yeah?
Okay, I'm going to make an exception and allow one more question. No?
All right, yeah, so think about accessibility is what she said in case I didn't come through. Yeah? So if people who can't see, they will rely on the instructions to be done in the voice. Yeah, so one more thing to add. Yeah?
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you, Anton. Thank you,
Thanks
guys.
for having me.